What if the people who smiled at you the most were quietly planning to erase you? What if a single, forgotten detail exposed years of hidden resentment, silent betrayal, and a marriage built on convenient lies? Welcome to a place where family loyalty is tested, love is betrayed in silence, and revenge doesn't scream, it waits. Here, distance becomes power, time becomes a weapon, and the truth doesn't explode, it settles. These are stories where weddings reveal exclusion, marriages crumble behind calm smiles, and patience turns humiliation into quiet strength. Stories where someone underestimated is finally seen, not through anger, but through consequences that change everything. If you've ever been ignored, replaced, or made to feel small by the people who should have protected you, these stories are for you. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't loud, it's unforgettable. It started as a harmless question buried in a family group chat, the kind filled with beach emojis and countdowns to a Hawaiian wedding everyone seemed thrilled about. Flights were discussed casually, hotels confirmed, outfits coordinated. Then someone asked which row the seat was in. That was when the silence stretched too long. The truth arrived wrapped in embarrassment. No ticket had ever been booked. The explanation was simple, almost laughably so. A mistake, a name overlooked, a detail missed during months of planning. Yet this wasn't a backyard ceremony or a last-minute courthouse vow. This was Hawaii. Every seat, every dollar, every guest carefully counted. Forgetting one person wasn't an accident, it was a decision disguised as carelessness. What hurt wasn't the absence from the wedding photos. It was the ease with which everyone accepted that absence. No panic, no urgency to fix it. The family moved forward smoothly, relieved even, as if the missing presence made the picture cleaner. The husband stood quietly beside them, offering soft excuses about cost and timing, suggesting a live stream instead. His calm felt practiced. While leis were placed around necks and vows exchanged under the sun, something colder settled back home. Old memories resurfaced, dismissed opinions, ignored discomfort, jokes that landed a little too sharp. This mistake suddenly fit a pattern of quiet erasure that had been building for years. The secrets didn't reveal themselves all at once, they never do. A shared email left open too long, messages filled with inside jokes meant for someone else, conversations about the wedding that took place without any attempt to include the one person intentionally left behind. The husband hadn't just accepted the exclusion, he had helped plan it, framing it as easier for everyone involved. What made it unbearable was realizing how long the loyalty had been gone. The marriage had been convenient, not cherished. Keeping the peace with family mattered more than honoring vows. The forgotten ticket was simply the first undeniable proof. When the wedding photos finally stopped appearing, clarity replaced shock. Being erased from their perfect picture was painful, but staying invisible would have been worse. Sometimes being left behind is the only way to finally see who was quietly pushing all along. The silence was always presented as patience. Whenever questions surfaced, the husband's response came wrapped in calm logic and an easy smile, as if reassurance alone could erase doubt. Problems were minimized, concerns redirected, and uncomfortable truths gently postponed. That quiet became the foundation of the marriage, and it took far too long to realize it wasn't peace, it was avoidance. Every family gathering followed the same pattern. Decisions were made in private, then announced as final. Objections were met with reminders about keeping things simple. Loyalty was framed as flexibility, and flexibility slowly turned into self-erasure. The husband never raised his voice, never openly disagreed. Instead, support was offered to whoever made life easiest for him, even when it meant standing on the wrong side of the truth. The lies were never dramatic. They arrived in small, forgettable moments, a message deleted before being seen, a conversation paused when someone entered the room, plans explained vaguely, always missing key details. Smiles filled the gaps where honesty should have lived. Over time, it became clear those gaps were intentional. What finally shattered the illusion wasn't a single betrayal, but the discovery of how coordinated it all was. Messages between the husband and his family revealed quiet agreements, what to say, what to leave out, and who didn't need to know yet. Comfort mattered more than integrity. Approval mattered more than commitment. The marriage existed only as long as it required no sacrifice. The calm silence hid another truth: fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of choosing sides, fear of losing benefits tied to compliance, financial support, family connections, social standing. The vows were real only in moments where they demanded nothing in return. When confronted, the husband didn't deny it, he explained it, called it practical, claimed it was about timing and keeping everyone happy. What was missing from every explanation was accountability. Love was never mentioned, respect never entered the conversation. That was when the final choice became obvious. A marriage built on convenient lies can only survive if someone agrees to keep swallowing them. Silence had protected him for years, but it also exposed exactly where priorities stood. And once that truth was seen clearly, staying quiet was no longer an option. Time didn't heal anything at first. It sharpened everything instead. The distance that followed the humiliation felt unbearable in the beginning, like living inside an unanswered question. Days passed without explanations, weeks without accountability. The husband continued life as if nothing had shifted, calm as ever, protected by silence and routine. That calm no longer felt reassuring. It felt rehearsed. What time provided was space to observe without reacting. Patterns that once seemed accidental became obvious. Family visits that always excluded certain conversations. Financial decisions discussed after they were already made. Smiles exchanged that carried more meaning than words ever did. The year created enough distance to see how carefully the truth had been managed. Humiliation slowly transformed into focus. Instead of asking why it happened, attention turned to how often it had happened before. Old emails were reread, dates aligned too perfectly to ignore. Promises overlapped with lies. The husband's loyalty had never been divided. It had been firmly placed where comfort was guaranteed. Marriage existed only in public appearances, never in private choices. Time also revealed how dependent the husband was on the illusion of harmony. Reputation mattered deeply. Being seen as reasonable, reliable, and agreeable was more important than being honest. That weakness became impossible to unsee. While pretending to move on, patience quietly did its work. Information gathered itself naturally. Conversations were remembered, screenshots preserved moments meant to disappear, financial records exposed quiet shifts of money that were never discussed. Every discovery added weight, not rage. Revenge didn't need anger, it needed accuracy. When the 1 year mark arrived, the husband expected normalcy, a casual dinner, familiar comfort. What arrived instead was calm precision. Papers prepared without drama, evidence presented without accusation. There was no shouting, no emotional plea, only facts placed gently on the table, one by one, leaving no space for denial. The reaction was predictable. Shock first, then explanations, then bargaining. Each stage confirmed everything time had already taught. Accountability was still absent. Even then, the instinct was to protect image, not repair damage. Apologies were offered only after consequences became unavoidable. The real power of time wasn't revenge itself, it was clarity. Distance removed fear. Patience removed doubt. The humiliation that once felt suffocating became the very reason strength existed at all. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was wasted. Because when the truth is allowed to mature quietly, it arrives fully formed and impossible to escape. The truth didn't arrive with shouting or dramatic confrontations. It settled into place quietly, like dust after a long collapse. By then, every piece had already been gathered, every lie mapped to its origin. There was no need to announce anything. The husband had always underestimated silence, mistaking it for weakness instead of restraint. The first shift happened at work. A conversation took place behind closed doors, prompted by documents that spoke for themselves. Financial overlaps, conflicts of interest quietly enabled through family ties, favors exchanged without disclosure. The husband came home unsettled that night, still calm on the surface, but the cracks were finally visible. A position once protected by connections suddenly required explanations no one wanted to give. Family relationships followed the same pattern. Calls slowed, invitations became awkward. The same people who once coordinated exclusion now avoided eye contact, unsure which truths had surfaced and which were still waiting. No accusations were made, none were needed. The evidence had already traveled where it needed to go, carried by formal channels and polite emails. What hurt most for them wasn't the loss, it was the exposure. They had believed the narrative of someone who would tolerate being minimized forever. They had mistaken patience for dependency. Watching that belief collapse was more powerful than any argument could have been. The husband tried to regain control through familiarity, suggested talking things through, spoke about misunderstandings and intentions. But the shocking part was already undeniable. The marriage had been treated as an accessory, useful only when it didn't interfere with comfort or approval. Loyalty had been conditional, offered only when it cost nothing. There was no celebration in the aftermath, no announcement of victory. Life simply reorganized itself. Financial independence replaced shared accounts. Social circles shifted naturally, aligning with truth instead of pretense. The husband's world grew smaller, not because it was taken away, but because it had always been built on borrowed ground. Grace made the consequences unavoidable. Calm forced reflection. Distance removed the chance to rewrite history. Those who once orchestrated quiet exclusions were left to sit with the cost of their assumptions. No applause was needed. The truth had already done its work, and it left nothing undone. If this story spoke to you, don't forget to like the video. It helps more stories like this reach the right people. Subscribe to the channel for weekly true-to-life family drama, relationship betrayals, and quiet revenge that hits harder than words ever could. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might inspire the next one. Until next time, remember, silence watches everything.